Maybe you've been in business for years. Maybe you're wanting to go to that next level. It makes no difference. You need to know where you are trying to go, because without this, I can almost guarantee you're not going to get there. When I started my first business over 34 years ago, I didn't really have an end game. I just knew I wanted to make some money. I love when coaches, consultants, and professional service providers want to do big things in their business. They want to rise to the top and influence their market and the world around them. They want to have a greater impact and make a more lucrative income. Well, if this is you, welcome to Expert in You Podcast, the show where I interview other experts and coaches, consultants, so that they can share their success strategies with you. We're going to talk about marketing and how to close more sales, how to get more premium clients, and how to really build your visibility in the market and scale your business like a boss. If this is you, welcome to the show. I want to ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell right now so you don't miss one episode. Grab your coffee and buckle up, because we are ready to give it all to you to help you become the expert and get paid as the expert that you are. Welcome back to another episode of Expert in Your Podcast. I'm your host, Carden, and this week, wow, I am hitting episode 200. I can't even believe it. This has been such a fun ride. My podcast is one of my favorite things to do in my business. I meet the most amazing people. I get to share my expertise. I get to build my visibility and brand in the marketplace, and I get to help you have a more lucrative and profitable business. So episode 200, the average podcast, I think it's something like 80% of podcasts never make it past episode 10. Now, what can you learn from this? First of all, you can learn to subscribe right now to my podcast. Make sure you hit that notification so that you don't miss any episodes. But today, I really want to share a kind of a hodgepodge of things that I believe will really help you take your business to brand new levels. Some things that I've learned along the way, things that I've learned over 34 years building and selling businesses, some things that I've learned from some of my guests, and also some things that I can teach you to go forward and get into your next level of success in your business. So I really tried to think about, what do I want this show to be about? But there wasn't one specific topic. I thought, you know what? I am going to share multiple things with you, and I know something will land and will really help you. So my goal today is to get those aha moments for you. All right. So the very first thing I want to talk about is, if you are going to do a podcast, or maybe you already have a podcast and it's not doing what you want it to do. Well, I want to encourage you to take a step back if you do already have a podcast. But if you don't and you're thinking about one, I want you to take a step back and really consider the strategy and put the right strategy in place for what you want to accomplish. When I first started my podcast 4 years ago, actually, we ended up changing the name about a year into what it is now, Expert in You. My very first podcast, the first year, it was called The Strategic Edge. And the reason I started that podcast is I wanted to build my brand and my visibility online and in the marketplace. I love to speak. I love to meet people. I love to connect. And so this was a great way for me to do that. And my idea was to just put out great, valuable content into the world, and hey, maybe I'll get some clients along the way. But what I realized after about a year of this and zero ROI, I said, maybe I need to take a step back and figure out where there is a gap or something that's kind of broken in my strategy here. And so I did a couple of things. I rebranded to Expert in You because my Expert in You brand was really taking off. My programs, everything I was building was around Expert in You, my book that I wrote, my best-selling book. And I made the decision that I wanted to stay on brand. So I changed the name. I rebranded the podcast. But the other thing that I did is I really figured out, what do I want from this podcast? Instead of just putting out value, putting out content, meeting people, what do I really want? And what I really wanted was to use my podcast to grow my business. So I started looking for ways to close the gap. And when I was able to do that, my podcast started making me a lot of money. I started getting great clients from my podcast and also guesting on podcasts. It also really helped me step up my game in my business, elevate my brand, get more visible, and even speaking opportunities have come to me. Magazine covers, media have come to me as a result of my podcast. So, do I recommend a podcast if you're really trying to grow and scale your business? 100% yes, but make sure that you have the right strategy in place to accomplish what you want to accomplish with your podcast. So I use my podcast differently than what a lot of people are using theirs for, and I teach my clients to do the same thing. It is a growth tool for us. It's a client attraction system for us in my business and even for my clients. So that's one way I love to use it. I also love to build great referral partners, JV partnerships with it. And that has been very lucrative as well. And so I like to help people do that too. So if you're going to start a podcast, consider those things before you dive in, because at the end of the day, podcasts are a lot of work. They're a lot of fun. I love it. It's one of my favorite things, but they are a lot of work. They're a lot of time. They're a lot of effort, and they are a lot of money. Even if you are doing everything yourself, there are still platforms you have to pay for. There might still be editing that you have to pay for. There are other tools and things that you will need for that podcast. And so it is not free like a lot of people think it is. So just consider those things. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is the 3 pillars of unstoppable business growth. Now, I haven't talked about these 3 pillars before, but I'm actually getting ready to do a speaker event, and I'm going to be talking about business growth, unstoppable business growth, mastering business growth. And I created this presentation around these, what I call 3 R's, 3 pillars to unstoppable growth. And so I thought I would share these with you, because if I look back over 34 years of entrepreneurship, and even when I was working in corporate and business, these same things, these principles still applied. And so if I have to encompass everything I've learned in entrepreneurship, it really does come down to these 3 things, these 3 pillars. So it's not a program, it's actually deeper than that. So the very first thing is you can have whatever you want in your business. You can build your business to whatever level you choose if you have these 3 things. Are you ready? All right, what's the first thing? The first thing is your roadmap. Remember, I said there are 3 R's, right? The first thing is your roadmap. Know where you want to go. Know what it is you're trying to accomplish. This should include your vision. This should include your strategy. And then a strategy is where you decide what that end goal is. You reverse engineer, you figure out what the steps are going to be, and then what are the details in the steps, right? That's a strategy. So you should have a roadmap for where you want to go. And it doesn't matter what level business you are in. You might be a startup. Maybe you've been in business for years. Maybe you're wanting to go to that next level. It makes no difference. You need to know where you are trying to go, because without this, I can almost guarantee you're not going to get there. When I started my first business over 34 years ago, I didn't really have an end game. I just knew I wanted to make some money. We were financially struggling in our family. My husband's paycheck wasn't covering the bills. I didn't have 2 dimes to rub together. And I talk about this in other podcasts and other videos that I put out there, so you can hear my story elsewhere. But bottom line, we struggled and we were in financial hardship. And my 4-year-old son needed shoes. And I literally sat down at my kitchen table and I cried and I prayed for an answer, because I didn't know what to do. And we didn't have opportunity. Again, this was 34 years ago. I lived out in the country and outside of a small little town. I was trying to be a stay-at-home mom and raise my kids. And there's a lot around this, but I didn't have the opportunity to go and get a job and work and make the money that I needed to make. So I prayed for an opportunity. I prayed for an idea. And I always believe God provides. He did. I started that first business with a box of stuff that was literally stored in my basement that was worth about $15. I took that stuff, I made some things with it. I took those things to a little store to try to sell them. They didn't sell. I said, "What is selling?" She told me, and I started a business. That business went global, it went international, and I did that business for 7 years. I employed lots of people. That business made me over a six-figure income 34 years ago, which was almost unheard of. And I want you to know it wasn't revenue, it was an income. I made over a six-figure income 34 years ago. Now, also putting this in perspective, this was before the internet. I mean, the internet was out there, but we didn't have access to it the way we do now. I didn't have a home computer. I didn't have any of these things available to me. And I was doing things the old fashioned way. So the way that business went global is I advertised in international magazines. I went into stores that were all across the country, and it rented space in all of those stores, and sold my craft items and my dolls. Basically, they were dolls out of all of those stores. And so I was all over the country, and I was international. So the very first thing is have a roadmap. Now, I didn't have a roadmap with that first business, but I did with the businesses that followed, because I quickly learned when I sold that business, wow, if I would have been thinking that way, or if I would have been thinking differently and known what I wanted. And I always did know how to make the next moves and what the next steps were, but I didn't really sit down and really map out a roadmap and what the steps were going to be. I didn't really have a big vision for that business. So when you have a roadmap, it simplifies your business. You don't take as many twists and turns. You don't go down as many rabbit holes. Think about it this way. If you were in New York and you wanted to go to California, but you didn't have any kind of a map, you didn't have GPS, you didn't have your phone, you didn't have anything that could help you get there except trial and error, well, how long would it take you to get there? And would you get there? Some people may never get there, right? And that's exactly what happens when we don't have a roadmap. So pillar number one to getting unstoppable business growth is have a roadmap. Know what your vision is, know what the strategies are, know what the steps are, and the details that will help you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish to get to where you want to go. If you know where you're going, you can find a way to get there. All right. Pillar number two is be resourceful. Oh my goodness. When I really sat and thought about all the things that I've done through the years that have helped me grow and help me make money and help me help other people, I've always been resourceful. I mean, even if I think about taking that box of stuff that was worth $15, that was being resourceful, right? That was using what I already had and using skills that I already had and turning it into something. That's a true entrepreneur, right? You can make money out of nothing. Well, I did that in my second business. I did that in my third business. And I continue to do that. Even my coaching business was being resourceful. It was taking what I knew and to help other people, figuring out how to package, market, and sell that, and going out and talking to people that were already in my network, people that I already knew, being resourceful to get that business off the ground. And so being resourceful has served me really well in everything that I've ever done. I want to tell you a few stories here so that you can kind of get some insight into what I'm talking about. Years ago, when I was running my health clubs, I was bootstrapping my businesses. So, it wasn't that easy to get loans, and we didn't have loans readily available like we do now. And there wasn't such a thing as crowdfunding and getting investors. Those things just weren't really known about, or at least I didn't know about them. I wasn't exposed to anything like that in my small little town. And so I was bootstrapping my business. So I would make money and I would want to reinvest it back into my business, because I knew my end game, my roadmap was someday I can sell this. If I keep reinvesting, I keep building this up, building up the self club, building this out to really be something, this can be part of a retirement plan. And so I had that end game in mind. But along the way, there were things I wanted to do that were special. I remember when spinning came onto the scene and I wanted to get spin bikes. I always tried to stay very cutting edge in my business and always tried to do things that other people were not doing. And I remember spinning coming running around. But when I looked at what spin bikes cost, the money that it was going to cost me to bring spin bikes in, I thought, oh my gosh, I just don't want to take that money and invest it into those spin bikes, because without a way to make money off of those, it was just more stuff that I was going to be offering for the same price with all of my members, right? So what I decided to do was actually create a spin program, package it in a way that people would have to pay extra for the spin classes. And so I packaged that up. I marketed that to the members. I even, and here's some other tips, because I talk about this all the time. I went to the best members, the members that would do anything I would put out there. They would buy everything. They were great. They had money, and they would, if you say we should do this and you say this is going to be good, we're going to do it. We're going to invest. So I just put together this spin program. I went to the members that I knew would invest in it, and I broke it all down, and I did the math, and I knew what I had to make to get the bikes paid for, to bring them in. And I also knew what I had to make to make a profit on those spin bikes. And so all of this was broken out. It was all figured out. I had a strategy. I put the program together, and I went out and I sold the program before I ever bought the spin bikes. And I told them, this is going to be coming. If we have enough interest, if enough people want this, I'm going to bring spin bikes in, and this will be part of the club. And I sold enough of those programs. I got people excited. I was enthusiastic, and I was super excited to bring it in. And I knew how great it was going to be for everyone and for all of my members. And so I went out and sold that program. I made enough to get the spin bikes, and then I continued to make money on that program over and over and over again. So that was another way of being resourceful. It was utilizing what was in front of me, even though I didn't really necessarily have the money to invest tens of thousands of dollars into bringing in spin bikes. So I was really thinking, how can I turn this into something that will not only be a great addition to my club, but it will also make me money, and I will get them paid for at the same time. Well, I have done that over and over again. I did it when I brought in barbells, and we wanted to do barbell classes, and I wanted to get into a licensing program with those classes. And so I did it around that. So what I did was I always leveraged my members to pay for the things that I wanted to bring in. Why should all of those things keep coming out of my profits when they were additional and they were extra and they were really over and above what my members were really promised and were paying for? So that is a way of being resourceful. I want to tell you another quick little story when we talk about resourcefulness. So it's really looking at what is around you and how can you leverage those things and make those things work to get you what you want. Okay. So we were just moving my daughter this past weekend from Miami to the Kansas City area. And as we're helping her move and get all of her stuff unloaded and setting up her townhome, she has a beautiful luxury townhome. She said, I'm thinking I want to put a little coffee bar over here right next to the kitchen and put my espresso machine and just build that out to be a nice little buffet area and coffee. So I'm going to have to get a piece of furniture that will go there. And I looked, money's a little tight. She's moving. She's taking a new job. She just got into this beautiful new townhome. So money's a little tight. And I looked around and I said, what if you take your TV stand? Now, this was like a cabinet kind of TV stand. It was beautiful. It matched her kitchen. Even the hardware on the TV stand matched her kitchen cabinets. And that was where she wanted to put it, was really right next to the kitchen. And I said, what if you take your TV stand and you make this your buffet coffee bar, and then you take that shelf unit that you've got upstairs in the bedroom, you replace that with a dresser, which she was already going to get a new dresser, bring that down, make that the TV stand. It has all of these cubes, and you can store all of your books. She loves books. You can store all of your books in this TV stand. I said, then you only have to buy one piece of furniture instead of two. Oh my gosh, Mom, you're brilliant. Oh, wow, that works. That's amazing. And so we did that, and it turned out perfectly. And then we were upstairs in her bedroom, and she has this little vanity in her bedroom, but it doesn't have drawers or doors or anything. It's just like kind of built into a little nook in the wall, it was really cool. And she said, boy, I wish I had somewhere here to store like my blow dryer and my curling iron and my steamer. She said, but I need to get something that will fit underneath this vanity. And I looked around the room, and I saw over by her bed, she had this sort of like a little nightstand, but it was a kind of a wire framed nightstand, kind of modern. And I said, what about moving that nightstand? You don't have anything on it. You don't have a lamp or anything on it. Why don't you move that little nightstand over here, slide it under the vanity? It's wire, so you can put your hot curling iron on there. You can put your blow dryer on there, your steamer on there, and it fit perfectly right under that little vanity, and her chair still fit there at the vanity. She goes, oh my gosh, Mom, you are brilliant. You are such a strategist. And I started thinking about that, and I thought, I'm really just resourceful. So I was looking for ways to help her get what she wanted from her little place, but also be able to save money. And I realized as I was thinking about this podcast and even my presentation that's coming up here in a week, I was thinking, wow, this is something that I really have never talked about, but it has been a huge, huge pillar in my success, not only in my business, but even in my life. I've always been resourceful. I've always found ways. Even at 7 and 8 years old, when I had my first business selling craft classes in my basement to the neighborhood kids, and I was charging them, I don't know, a dime or a quarter or whatever, I was resourceful. I was taking something that I had learned to do, and I wanted to teach it to other people, but I also made money with that. I was about 7 or 8. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. What is around you? What do you have access to? And don't expect people to hand you things. Look for ways to be resourceful, and you will never, never be in a place where you can't make things happen. When you're resourceful, you can always make things happen. It doesn't matter what's going on around you. It doesn't matter if it's a pandemic. It doesn't matter if it's a recession. It makes no difference. When you are resourceful, you can always find a way. I heard something one time, someone said, either find a way or make a way. And I thought there's so much truth to that. A great entrepreneur not only finds a way, but if they can't find a way, they're going to make a way. So what's that other saying? Where there's not a door, make a door. So be resourceful. So pillar number 2, pillar number 1 was roadmap. Pillar number 2 is resourceful. And finally, pillar number 3 to having unstoppable growth in your business is resiliency. When you are resilient, you will be unstoppable. You'll have unstoppable growth because nobody will be able to stop you in your tracks. When you are resilient, and what does it mean to be resilient? Basically, how fast can you bounce back? How fast can you overcome obstacles and challenges? How fast can you not let things get you down, but how fast can you rise up? So a lot of people would say fail forward, right? I would say, how fast can you fail forward? So when you are resilient, it means you can bounce back from things. You don't get stuck. You don't quit. You don't give up. You keep pushing through, and you get those breakthroughs over and over and over again. And when you learn to do this, it becomes a habit. And so really failure isn't an option, and you're always looking for ways to be resourceful so you don't fail. But also being resilient sometimes means making shifts or pivots. A good example of this that I talked about at the very beginning of this podcast was when I said, hey, my first year in my podcast really didn't bring me any ROI. And it had a different name even. It was a different show. Now, it really wasn't a different show, but it was under a different name. And being resilient means I looked at that and I said, that hasn't really accomplished what I wanted it to accomplish. And even though it's going to be a pain to rebrand and it's going to be a pain to make this shift, it's going to serve me in the long run. And so that's what I did. And it was a bit of a hassle to change it all over and rebrand everything, but it was so worth it. It was so worth it. Well, that's resiliency. See, a lot of people would have looked at that and said, wow, I've been doing this for a year and it hasn't brought me any ROI and I'm done. I'm over. I'm not going to do it. Instead, I look for ways to make changes. I look for ways to close gaps. I look for ways to overcome obstacles and challenges and bounce back. That is resiliency. So there are 3 pillars here for unstoppable growth. What are they again? Have a roadmap. Be resourceful, learn to be resourceful, and be resilient. If you encompass these 3 characteristics and principles into your business and everything you do, I have to tell you, there are no limits for you. I'm not even going to tell you the sky is the limit, because why would I do that if there are footprints on the moon, right? I don't know who said that, but it was a good one. So you can accomplish anything you want in your business, but you've got to step out, play a bigger game, do what other people won't do, and never, never, never give up on yourself. Because when you quit in business, when you get frustrated, when you give up, you're giving up on you, because as an entrepreneur, you are the driver, right? You're responsible for everything in your business, good and bad. So if your business is not accomplishing what you want it to accomplish, you need to look inside and take a hard look at why that is happening, because you're the leader. You are the leader. So I hope you found this valuable. Oh my gosh, I could go on and on for another hour and talk about so many other things, but I wanted to leave you with something powerful this week for this 200th episode. I want to leave you with, how do you make this entrepreneur world work? How can you build your business and make millions of dollars and build wealth and help people and make an impact? How can you do that? And I think I've shared a lot of great principles and ideas with you. And I hope you got those aha moments that will catapult you forward and help you take your business to the next level. And as always, if I can help you scale your business, get those $1 million offers in place, build that $1 million brand around that offer, and really scale and grow a lucrative and profitable business with your expertise and your knowledge and your skills, then reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. I want to tell you about my $1 million accelerator, my Expert in You $1 million accelerator. It is to help you either go to your first million or add $1 million to your business. So if you would like to do that, you can book a call with me at acarden.com. Let me know what you think about this episode. Sharing is caring, so please share it with other people that need to hear it. God bless you. Have an amazing day. Go rock your business. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
If you've enjoyed this show, then I want to invite you to check out a free automated webinar where I show you how you can bring in ultra high fee clients for $25,000 to $125,000 or even more. I show you how you can do this maybe even in the next 7 to 60 days. So if you want to check out that free webinar, just go to expertinyouaccelerator.com and I'll see you on the inside. You have an amazing day, and until next time, God bless you. Go rock your business.